Hello everyone. In this session, we want to look at creating the DFS namespace and creating links to the backend shares on servers in the other islands in the Caribbean. We're going to start by accessing the DFS Management console. I'm going to click on Tools, DFS Management. We want to right-click on Namespace and say New Namespace. We want to type the name of the namespace, but first we want to give the name of the server that will host that namespace. We're going to browse for that server. So we click on Browse, Advanced, Find Now. And the server that we want is dccontoso.com. So we're going to click on dccontoso.com. Select OK to accept that name. Can we see here the name DC? Click on OK. So we have selected the server to host the namespace, and it is a DC server. We want to click on Next to continue. Now we want to enter the name for the namespace, and the name will appear after the server or domain name in the namespace. We're going to use the on-screen keyboard. So let's click on the on-screen keyboard. Now we're going to call the server Sales, S-A-L-E-S, Data. Namespace. So the name we have given for the namespace is Sales Data Namespace. We want to click Next to continue. Now we have a choice here. We can either choose the domain-based namespace or we can choose the standalone namespace. What's the difference between the two? Well, the domain namespace is stored on one or more namespace servers. And remember, if we're choosing domain namespace, we need to have Active Directory. If we choose the standalone namespace does not require Active Directory, and the namespace is stored on a single server. Whereas if you choose the domain namespace, then you can have a namespace scattered over several servers, which means that you can increase availability of a domain-based namespace because you're going to be having multiple servers. For our exercise, we're going to choose domain-based namespace. So we want to click Next to continue. And we're ready to create the namespace. You can look over what you have created. We have the name of the namespace. We have the name of the server. And we have chosen a domain-based namespace, and we want to click on Create to continue. We can see here that the namespace has been successfully completed. So we want to click Close to close the new namespace wizard dialog box. We're now ready to create the folder that will host the links to the shared folders on the other servers in the other islands. So we want to right click on the namespace and select new folder. We're going to type the name of the folder using the on-screen keyboard. So we're going to click in the name box and we're going to call our folder Sales Data Folder, SALES. Data space folder. After we have given the folder a name, we need to add those shares so that we can have links to the shares. So we want to click on add and we're going to browse for the shares. And we have 3 shares here: Sales Info 1, Sales Info 2, and Sales Info 3. And we're going to add all 3 of them. We click on Sales Info 1, click on OK. To add the target, click on OK again. We want to go back for the second and third folders. So we go through the same procedure by finding the shared folder and adding it. So what the user will be seeing is the folder itself, but instead of accessing the shares directly from the different islands, the user will be accessing the share from one main source, which would be the main server where we created the namespace. We're adding the third link, Sales Info 3. And now the user will be able to access the folders from one main point. We have a message here saying that the replication group can be used to synchronize the folder targets of the folder you just created. We're going to say no at this point because we need to go back and create the replication groups. We want to click on no. I want to pause here to point out that for our practice session, we have accessed the target links to the share folders on the DC server, but in our production environment, we're going to be creating these links from the servers in the other islands. So instead of DC, you would have the Trinidad server, the Ghana server, the Jamaica server. The servers in the other islands. Once we've done that, we want to expand the sales data folder so we can take a look at the links that we created. So we see here we have Sales Data Info 1, Sales Info 2, and Sales Info 3. And remember, these are links to the folders, the shares in the different islands, so that users now can access this data directly from the namespace that we created, which makes it less tedious for them. Because if they had to access these shares from every single server and every single island, they would need to remember the name and they would need to remember where these shares exist. So the namespace gives them an easily accessible location where they can locate the information they need. There's one other thing I want to point out here for the namespace name. Once you create that namespace name, you can click on Edit Settings, and Edit Settings allows you to set permissions for that shared folder. So you have to remember that you need to set permissions for the shared folder, and if you don't set permissions, then the users will not be able to access that shared folder. Access in a domain-based DFS is via the domain name. So you would type / domain name / whatever is your DFS root name. So the client on the Windows 8 computer, once the client is a domain member, can simply go to the command prompt or to the run command and type the domain name and the DFS root name to access that folder and to access the links to the shares that are located on other servers within the company. This is the end of our session on creating the namespace and creating the links, the target links to the share folders that are located in other islands where there are servers with shares for the company. I want to thank you for listening.